So hi everyone, thank you for joining us for today's all new Avance 2020 webinar. We are doing something really cool. We're using our patch kit today and making custom patches. Sean over there getting in the camera. So I want to go ahead and first show you on Colman Company. Show you on Colman Company real quick, kind of the materials that we're using today. So bear with me while I share my screen real quick. So under our embroidery category, you can find our patch kits and materials. So here we have some instructions for you, but custom patches are really cool and they're really easy with our setup. So right here we have our materials, the full patch kit, which I highly recommend, our hot knife that we're using today, and we're using patch twill material today as well. Just want to show you guys what we're going to be playing around with. And there we go. And I believe we're using our orange right here. So we're using that, and then I also want to talk to you guys before we jump into it a little bit about our graphic service. This is a premium service, and when we talk about embroidery and we talk about digitizing, it is so important to have top quality digitizing. The difference is, it's crazy, the difference. I'll show you right here a little project we did. So on the left side of the screen, you can see this is a cheap digitizing service, something that just kind of drops into your inbox. If you're in the business, you've probably gotten these emails before. We'll digitize for $10. It doesn't usually turn out well, and this is an example of that. Colors are wrong, you can't even read it. But on the right here, we have ColDesi Graphics Premium Digitizing Service. You can clearly see all the details in this. It's beautiful. It was shorter time to sew out as well. It's just phenomenal, the difference that can make to choose good digitizing over the cheap digitizing. So I want to go ahead and jump into this because we're going to sew out a full patch. So let me cancel my screen share real quick. All right. I'm going to let Sean jump on camera. And start sewing out this patch for you guys.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sean. So what we're going to do with our touchscreen is we're going to go ahead and select the job we want to sew out, which is a quarterback number 10 football helmet. You see right here on screen what it looks like. All right. It has 3 colors in the design, and we're going to basically sew it in. The first 2 colors will be the same. And then we're going to choose the 3rd color for the border of the number 10 and the helmet. Go to our next page. What's nice about the new Avance is it allows you to choose a frame size. And by doing that, it will automatically center the design, or center in the middle of the hoop. So it takes the guesswork out of trying to find the middle of the hoop. No matter what size you choose, whether it be the 15 centimeter or the 20 centimeter or the cap frame, it will find. Yep, and right now, if you can see, we've got the red laser on, which is just a button. It's a toggle switch. We just turn it on. This is pointing to the hole of the needle plate. So when you're tracing the design, which I'll do here in a second, you can watch the red laser to make sure it's going to fit inside your hoop. The good safety feature is if you see it go outside the hoop, the control panel, this area here will turn red. It will not allow you to continue. So then you have to choose a larger hoop size. What's also nice is if it's still white, but it looks really close to the edge, when it goes to do the trace, if it feels it's close to the edge, too close, it will stop and also turn red as well. So it's got some nice safety features. So we'll go ahead and do our trace right here. And we'll go ahead and watch the red laser as it moves around the contour range of the helmet. And on screen, I'm not sure if you can see, it's a dotted line with a dot that is actually going around as well. So you can get an idea on screen of where it's going to fit inside the hoop. Once it's done, goes back. If everything looks good, we will exit out of here. We will go into embroidery status, which shows us a gray image of our helmet. We see here it's got 6,988 stitches, and it's a little over 2¼ inches, both height and width. We'll come down here and we'll press our start button, and it will move over to the first section and start sewing. So what's nice about this is you get 2 of the same size hoops. So while you're sewing with one, you're hooping your next one. So you're never really in a downtime. And since you've already started your start point and traced it and made sure everything fit, what you would do is just pull this one off, put the next one on and press start, and it'll continue doing that job. Then you can unhoop this, hoop the next one, and put this one away. Right now, we're sewing this job. We got a max set at 850 stitches a minute, and it is sewing right now at 680. It will speed up and slow down depending on the width and type of stitch.
Remember, if you guys have any questions, just to use the chat below and go ahead, ask away. So after this sews out, we're going to have a special guest star. Our very own Mark Vila is going to come on, and he's going to cut out the patch for us. So you'll get to see from start to finish how we do that. Any questions? Right. Oh, closer to hear the machine. Yeah, absolutely. The material we're sewing on is patch twill, and I showed it a little earlier, but I'll show it again at the end on Colman Company. It is a patch twill material, and this is a burnt orange.
And we're pretty much within a foot of the sewing area. And I am standing right here with my microphone on my shirt. So I'm pretty close, and you can see I'm not yelling. I'm not straining to talk. It is a very quiet machine.
You want to talk a little bit about what comes with the machine, because this hoop, everything, you're basically ready to go when it comes to hoops with this machine.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get you'll get two 90 millimeters. You'll get two 120s. You'll get two 150s, two 220s. You'll get two 12 by 12s, a 21 by 14 inch hoop. You'll get one, as well as what's nice with this machine, it comes with a border frame, which is roughly, I think, 22 to 24 inches by 14 inches. So to give you an example, I will pull some hoops right here. This right here is your 12 by 12. This is your 90. A little bit larger is your 120. On the machine is the 150. There is this large one here, which is a 21 by 14. For if you're doing multiple patches, this is a great one to go with. And then there is a border frame that comes with it that is roughly 22 by 14 inches. It comes with a cap driver and two cap frames as well. It comes with a table that sits up here for if you have a garment you can butterfly open, you'd be able to lay it on there so they're not dragging down and holding the hoop down.
Right. So when you get something digitized, this is a question I honestly don't even know the answer. If you're doing it on a patch, would you get this digitized differently than if you were just getting a regular thing digitized?
Yeah, because if you're digitizing for a patch, the actual helmet, the fill pattern behind the helmet would not be there because you're using the patch material as the background.
Right.
If you're doing it just on a left chest for someone's logo on a hat, you'd want that filled. Otherwise, it would take the color of the shirt.
Right. And does it give it like a thicker border around as well usually? Because I feel like this has a pretty thick border.
Yeah, because what it'll do is once it does this border, it's going to come across with another border so that when you do cut it out with a hot knife, and the adhesive on the back of it will adhere the stitches to the adhesive so it doesn't come unravel.
Awesome.
So your borders are usually a lot larger with a very small, tiny border as it goes around.
Perfect.
All right.
And again, after we go ahead and get this all done and sewed out, we're going to show you, I'll show you on Colman Company where we have all the supplies for this and the material. And this little area over here is where Mark is going to sit. I'm going to trade off my mic to him in just a second.
Now, just to let you guys know, the reason the machine stopped is I traced it back to the back of the cone. The thread had come looped underneath. I'll show you the gray color because the color I'm showing with is in the back. The thread had come loose off the back of the cone and had lipped underneath the actual base. So when it happened, when it was sewing, this pulls tight and it keeps pulling, giving you like a shred look. The way I was able to find that out is when once I pulled the thread here, it was taut, and I just traced it all the way back and found out it was sitting underneath the cone. So I went ahead and rethreaded it. Another nice feature about this machine is to show you is it might have sewn maybe another 7-8 stitches past, so you want to back it up. So there's a feature here where we can go and back it up by 1 stitch, 10 stitches, 100 stitches, or by colors. So I want to back it up by 10 stitches, so I hit the -10. All right, we'll go again, hit another -10. And you can just back it up until you feel that where it stops. And you can see by the red laser, I am now on the spot where it broke off. So that's another little cool feature. Back out of here, I press start. Let it pick up with the bobbin. And then give it a nice little yank, and it will continue to sew. And if you notice when it's sewing, the red laser light does turn off. You also have an LED light on the side, which is a long snake light, to where if you wanted to position it in the front of the machine to get a better feel of, you know, if you've got not good lighting in your room or an apartment, you can position this anywhere you want so that you can get an idea and a bright view of what you're sewing out. You see the light, and when I turn it off, you can get a better feel of the sew out. All right. Oh, there's another question. It all depends on the size of the design of how many stitches it has, on how long it will take to sew out. The question was, how long does it take to sew a design? Since this one's got roughly 7,000 stitches, we're sewing at roughly 700 stitches a minute. You can basically divide 7,000 by 700, and it'll give you about a 10-minute sewing time. So you can always divide how fast you're going to sew into how many stitches the design has to get a rough estimate. As in, yeah, it depends on the width of the stitch. It's almost like putting a cruise control in your car. You got it set for 65, but when you go up a hill, it's going to slow down, and then it'll speed back up as it goes back down. The embroidery machine's the same way. Depends on the style of the stitch and the width of the stitch. It'll speed up and slow down accordingly so that you get the best sew out. All right, so we have the 2019, the border on the number 10, and then the ear hole on the helmet left. It don't matter.
Hi everyone. Mark Vila here. And while this is finishing sewing out for a minute, I want to let you know what we're going to do next. So we'll take this sewn out patch, right? It's in kind of partial, production mode here. We're going to take the sewn out patch and we're going to bring it over to our heat press. And we have a heat seal material that I'll be showing you that we're going to add onto it. And the heat seal material provides kind of a dual purpose for patches. One is it seals in all the stitches and the bobbin thread and your trims and all that are behind it. It seals them in, so it's a nice clean look, and it stiffens the patch up a little bit. So it stiffens the material, so it has some structure to it, so it doesn't flop over when you're holding it. And then the second thing that it does is actually allows you to heat apply it to a garment. So just like anything else you would heat apply, if you can heat apply a transfer or some vinyl to it, you can pretty much heat apply this patch as well in the same type of a fashion. You would put your garment or your hat or whatever would be on a heat press, close it up, let it sit there for about 10 or 20 seconds, and then the heat seal glue will actually melt and go ahead and adhere it to the garment. And then when it cools off, you've got a patch that's essentially permanently adhered to something.
All right, so as you can see, the design is finished. I'll go ahead and pull it off. So if you had another one hooped and ready to go, because you've got 50 of these to do, you just set this aside, put your next one on. You would go ahead and press start, let that one run, unclick this, put your heat seal backing Mark talked about, and cut it out.
Thank you. Welcome. Camera's on my foot. Okay. So what we've got here is, let me go ahead and be able to say hi to you. Hi. So yeah. So what we've got here is here's how your patch twill material comes. It's going to come in yard-long rolls. And we've got tons of colors. We're always adding new colors to it. And then we've also got our heat seal material, which is also going to come like this as well. And you could buy these in larger rolls or like this. And this is going to be a yard of the material. The material, when you cut it down to size, is going to come like this. And it's essentially, it's like almost like a hardened glue. I almost think of it like almost like a flat, like melted down glue stick. It's kind of rubbery, kind of stretchy. And this heat seal material is designed to adhere to textiles. And when it dries, it becomes hard again. So it's very much like a hot glue type of feel to it. So what we'll do is, we have you can use some silicone paper, or this would be like a flexible finishing sheet or anything like that. Something to protect your heat press. Parchment. We take our heat seal material and our patch. Here's our completed patch. We'll put that down. Put our heat seal material down. Doesn't matter which way it goes. There's no up or down side. And then this backing is almost like a wax paper type of a feel. So the glue won't adhere to this. And we take all this and we sandwich it in to our finishing sheet. And I'll put it under a heat press. The instructions are online, by the way, but I'm going to do it at 320. Low to medium pressure, and we're going to go ahead and do it for about 10 seconds. So we're looking to kind of liquefy the glue and then let it adhere back, and it'd be nice and smooth on the back of our patch. So that should be enough. There we go. And we want to just let this cool for, by the time you honestly walk it over to where you're going to be cutting, it'll be cool enough. But what we're looking for here is for this to have kind of hardened back up. And it's still a little tacky, so we'll let it cool. But in the meantime, we can go over to our table where we'll cut it out. We can see well? Yeah. All right, so here's one that I've done earlier today during our practice. 10 minutes? That's how long I have to do this? Oh, perfect. I only need 4. So on the back here, you're going to see where it's nice and finished. That's where the heat seal glue finished up. And on the front here is where it's been cut out. So let me show you exactly how I did this. It's not too hard. And this is one of those things that I say after doing 3, 4, 5 of them, you really kind of nail it down. So we've got our hot knife right here. It's pretty hot. It's up over 400 degrees. It's going to cut through this thing, essentially like butter. And there's also a really cool video. If you go onto the patch page on Colman Company, that will be a step-by-step of how to do this. But all we're doing is we're cutting it out with a hot knife. Use the very tip of it, and we just go around. And you don't have to be perfect on this because there's a cleanup technique that we'll do at the end. It's a little tricky when you've got little pieces like this. Tough corners, but still not too hard. Once you get past that, we're pretty much smooth sailing. And this is a little bit of a manual process, but if you're in production where if you've got to do 20 of these, you figure how long does it take for the embroidery machine to sew this out versus you're sitting at a table next to your embroidery machine and cutting this out. Just like when you embroider anything else, you've got to cut out your backing after you embroider a shirt. You're going to open it up and cut out the backing. You're going to trim stitches, stuff like that. There's always a little bit of manual work in embroidery, and this is just another example of that, but it's pretty easy.
Mark, there's a quick question.
Sure.
Somebody noticed you were cutting it at an angle.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, what I'm looking to do is I want to kind of get underneath it when I'm cutting. So almost visually, if you can see here, almost what I'm looking to do is cut it like this. So I don't destroy the top of the stitches. I'm cutting nice underneath to give a nice, smooth, clean edge. I don't have a really good example of what to compare that to right now, though. I'm at a loss for words, but that's all it is. So as you can see, it's a little bit rough in some spots, right? But I told you it doesn't have to be perfect at first. There's two things you could do here. You could take little scissors and kind of trim what's left over, but all we do is we use the barrel of the knife and you put a little bit of pressure and you go smooth around the side and it's going to go ahead and melt that. And after you do every few patches or so that you do, you go ahead and you can just clean off this barrel. And here I'll get in, and where I had that little bit of orange, I'll go right into the tip. What we're using here is we're using a universal tip, which is a little bit larger. We also have a fine point, which is about half the size of this. And if you're going to do a patch that's more detailed than this, then I would use the fine point tip so you can get it in even tighter. And that's pretty much it. This patch, I'd say, is done. I feel pretty good about it.
Looks good.
In hindsight, I would have had the finer point tip to get in there. It would have been much easier for myself. I would have spent less time on it, but I don't even think that I have one of those in my desk. So I'm working with what I got. There we go.
And the link to all this material I posted in the chat for you guys.
So if you see here, I love in the back how the heat seal material, it hides those trims and the bobbin and everything. So it feels really smooth and nice back here. It's also got structure to it. So it's not a flimsy patch. It looks like something that a professional patch looked like. And then you can take this and exactly what we did to when we put it on here before, if you were to take a shirt or something like that, and you put it on there and tack it with the heat press for the 10 or 15 seconds, it will reliquefy that glue, and the shirt, the garment, and your patch will adhere together, and it's stuck there forever. In addition to that, you can also tack this down by putting it back on your embroidery machine, and we've done some content on that before, I believe, as well. So,
real quick before we wrap up, what is included in the standard patch kit?
So there's numerous patch kits, but the core things you have to have are the hot knife, your patch material, your heat seal. There's another patch material we sell that has more of a textured look to it. It looks more like a fill stitch on embroidery. That one has an additional stabilizer that comes with it called heat spun that you put on before you sew it. But all those instructions are right on colmanandcompany.com step by step.
So, and then real quick, one last question. So we have a question. Is there additional fee to have it done digitizing wise as a patch? Digitizing is all price-wise depending on the stitches.
Correct. So by having a patch, you're cutting out the background. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
So it'll be less stitches. Therefore, the cost will be a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell all that when you're filling out the order form. You let them know whether it's for a hat, patch, applique, what have you, and they'll go off that.
Yep. And you could say it's for a patch, so you want two borders like this if you wanted that to kind of have that double edge, that double look like this one has.
Okay.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone taking a few minutes to watch me cut out a patch. It is actually, it's one of my favorite things to do. It's a lot of fun. And we appreciate you joining us for spending a little bit of time here today. Of course, if you would like to chat with anybody here about an Avance embroidery machine, ask some questions about that, please go ahead and visit ColDesi.com or Avance-emb.com. And you can go ahead and take a look at that. And if you already have an embroidery machine and you're looking to add patches, just go ahead and visit ColmanandCompany.com and you can check it out right there. And go ahead and feel free to give a call there or live chat to ask any questions.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.